What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Katie Mox here with Brady Quinn. It's the Brady Quinn Football Show. And Will Brinson. Yeah, all right. Make sure you stay tuned all week for more. All right, Billy. All right. So make sure you keep it locked with us all week long for more off-season news. Yes, remember to like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube page. If you're listening to audio only, do the same. Download, follow, leave a 5-star review. Tell all your friends to listen and watch the pod. Fellas, it's a big day for CBS Sports. We are launching the Golazo Network, which is a 24-hour soccer network. Are you guys European football fans at all?
Huge European football fan, big Champions League fan. In fact, I was thrilled when we acquired the Champions League. I had gotten into it. My brother is a big time soccer fan. He's an Arsenal fan, I believe. I'm still kind of working my way into the various other leagues, a little Serie A sometimes. I know Brady's a big Serie A guy. So you know some Liga 1, but the Champions League is just truly elite level soccer, and the fact that we have this constantly running network going to focus on what is really the global sport is very exciting. And of course, I will be tuning into it constantly. But also, by the way, like if you're a degenerate, there's nothing better than soccer because it's all during the day. Like if you want to gamble, like soccer gambling is like you're like, oh, it's boring. It's like, what up? Nah, soccer gambling is like intense when you've got like a draw for a match and it's 0-0 and then it goes to stoppage time and all of a sudden some like a forward just squeaks through the defense and he's sprinting toward there and like all of a sudden they raise the flag and the VAR and it's offsides. It's just intense. I love soccer. How about you, Brady?
I'll definitely be watching. I will definitely be watching. I'm really excited about the launch. Can't wait. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm really excited for this. Yep.
My brother is being booed in the comments, by the way.
Oh, boo Stu. Oh my God. Booing Stu is actually a fun little
they're booing
But Brady, you've got daughters. Are you a soccer dad?
I coach their soccer team. In fact,
hypocritical here. Good question.
Not hypocritical at all. I mean, coaching my daughter's
Kelly Mox, attorney at law. Nice work.
First off, coaching my daughter's soccer team and taking the time to watch other soccer, no chance. All right, because the leagues are so far apart as far as strategy, it doesn't apply. Okay, I will say this: some said this past year, and this wasn't like me saying this or our parents even saying this, even though they did, but like some of the officials who kind of ran the league, they said we might have had the best defense in the entire league, and that was, of course, what I was responsible for. I was defensive coordinator, if you will, which I had to divvy up tasks on our actual soccer team coaching staff. All right, we had someone who was responsible for offense, someone who was responsible for defense, had a head coach that oversaw that, substitutions, etc. Made sure to come up with a good practice plan, dividing up the field in the quadrants where the girls were learning a lot of fundamentals. So had this whole thing mapped out. After the first game, kind of reconvened and said, look, this is what we need to do moving forward. We implemented that. We're an all-girls team in a boys and girls league, mostly boys teams, absolutely shutting people out. Our little group of girls was just dominating. So again, suffocating defense. A lot of times just, I keep telling the girls, just get in the way of the ball, okay? If you can't feel like you can kick it, just get in the way of the ball. They're 5-6 years old. Sometimes the best thing to do is just get in the way. Let the ball hit you, and then just don't cry. We'll figure out what to do after that, okay?
I love that. Brinson, does your son play soccer? Is he also dominant like Brady's girls?
He's actually started doing some lax lately, a little lacrosse.
Yeah. He's likes to be a lax bro.
I think he'd be a lax bro. And I should note that Robbie, my son, has played soccer. I'm more of a football coach, though. And fortunately for me, Brady has just pointed out that he's a great soccer coach. Now, Brady doesn't play soccer, didn't play soccer professionally, which means he can't criticize my abilities as a football coach. And you shouldn't, because we were the highest scoring team in the league, dominated everybody thanks to my patent pending jet sweep offense.
Your jet sweep offense?
Not patent pending. Yeah.
What are you, the extension of Matt Canada? Is that essentially what you just watch the Steelers all year? Steelers fans probably are pulling their hair out, having to deal with that again for another year.
I'm Bob Australia. Thank you very much.
Okay, just saying.
That's my coaching game.
I think we got to get Brady on as an analyst for the Golazo network. Seems like you actually know quite a bit about the defense.
Do you struggle with like being a celebrity on the field when you're like, because you're tall?
Probably tough. It's probably tough.
You played professional football. People know who you are in South Florida, mostly for your, your various, entrepreneurial ventureships. I don't think that's a word. I just, do people go out and be like, hey, Brady, what's up, bro? How you doing, bro?
Yeah, you'll get the occasional, hey man, how you doing? So your daughter plays? Yeah, my son plays. I'm like, okay, good luck. It's game time. Get out of my face. And then honestly, when the game starts, I'm locked in. And there was a couple moments this year where I had to take a second. I was like, why do I care more than these 5 and 6 year old girls? Like, what is going on right now?
Keep our composure. We've gone too far. Keep our composure.
Where did that great one? Where's that been hiding?
We just needed this conversation to bring it out.
Yeah.
But I had to literally walk away at times because I was just like, all right, I don't know why I care so much, but I think it's because I want the girls to care that much. And when they're 6, it's hard to get them to really be focused in on it. But I will say this, the girls that all improved, every single one of them improved mightily over the course of that season. My good buddy, Jeff Darlington, his daughter played as well. And I think they would attest. All the girls improved. We won a lot of games. I think we only lost maybe 2, and it was to one team that they just had. I'll be honest. They had one big kid. He was a boy, and no one was stopping that dude. All right, he was ripping shots from like 30 yards out, and I was just like, all right.
Actually, Jeff Darlington.
No, it was Jeff out there playing. But in all honesty, it was like one of those. I mean, he was putting it like corner of the net, like with a little bend on it, like Beckham. And I'm like, okay, this kid's a little more advanced than where we're at right now. So we'll go ahead and take the L. We'll learn from this, So a lot of great lessons. We've probably spent way too much time on this topic.
One more thing I just want to point out, because I want you guys to know this about me as a human being, that no matter the score, I wore a visor every week, obviously, different visor each week. And when we jailbroke a long touchdown, no matter the score, I'm peacocking with my play sheet and visor and like winding it down, following the kids, sprint to the end zone, like a true sportsman.
See, we didn't celebrate when we would score goals because we act like you've been there before. We try to teach the girls good sportsmanship. And by the way, since I was only focused on the defense, I said, don't think for 1 minute that you let up. All right. You step on their throat. It's not our fault. Okay. If mommy and daddy didn't prepare you and give you a juice box or something before the game, or maybe you didn't get a donut, it's not our job to make sure the other team's prepared. We go out there and we kick some ass. All right. And the girls know that. And they may or may not have heard me say, let's kick some ass multiple times, which I had to refrain from at one point after one of the parents complained, but I digress.
Mr. Quinn is saying ass too
not
much.
Our job. All right. If the other team didn't show up prepared, we score goals, we stop goals, we kick their ass.
Did you?
Juice box boy, I'll tell you that.
Billy bringing the juice today. Did you tell him?
I think there should be like a reality show about Coach Brady and the girls, because this sounds like some must-watch TV. Speaking of must-watch TV, CBS Sports Golazo Network, the first of its kind, free 24/7 channel dedicated exclusively to global soccer coverage, is now streaming on the CBS Sports app, Pluto TV, and Paramount Plus. Get your morning started off on the right foot with Morning Footy, our weekday soccer culture-driven morning show beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern. Plus, don't miss the rest of our top-notch programming, including live matches and re-airs, original studio shows, highlights, documentaries, and much more. CBS Sports Golazo Network is the ultimate year-round streaming destination for fans of the beautiful game, like Brady Quinn. All right, guys, OBJ, let's talk about American football now. OBJ signed a 1-year deal with the Ravens. It includes a $13.835 million signing bonus, a $1.165 million base salary, $3 million in reachable incentives. It would make him earning at least $15 million and as much as $18 million on the deal. No other free agent wide receiver got more than $11 million per year, and it's the most guaranteed money was given to Alan Lazard, actually at $22 million, but that was a 4-year deal. Brady, is this the greatest money spent by Eric DeCosta?
Potentially, and if it has to do with the fact that they signed Nelson Aguilar earlier, they drafted Bateman, a year ago in the first round, And now you have Odell to go with Mark Andrews. Again, assuming Odell Beckham's healthy and he's able to be the Odell, that we saw helping the Rams win a Super Bowl. If that's what we're getting and it convinces Lamar Jackson to come back, and whether it's play under the non-exclusive franchise tag or even under like a lesser amount for the extension, then yeah, like you go spend a little money over here with Odell Beckham, right? In order to be able to then entice Lamar Jackson to come back for an additional year and realize like, all right, maybe I'm in a good situation with this organization. Maybe this is a good spot for me. I don't need to look anywhere else. Hell, those two partied together down in South Beach after Odell signed. I wouldn't be shocked if the Baltimore Ravens were the ones calling down to whatever club it was, picking up the tab, most likely 11 or wherever they partied at. But they were like, hey, it's Steve Bisciotti, just whatever those guys want, make sure you pay them, and you tell them that the Baltimore Ravens are taking care of the tab. It would be some of the best money spent, because at the end of the day, if they can avoid paying $231 million fully guaranteed at signing, then that's a win, because they get a guy who's been a former MVP to come back essentially on a discount. If we're using Deshaun Watson's deal as the market resetting quarterback contract that everyone should be trying to leapfrog. And it sounds like that's what Lamar wants, even though I don't know that any organization obviously wants their quarterback to be able to leapfrog that right now.
So I've got two mutually exclusive, or two takes I think that are mutually exclusive on the Odell Beckham thing. One, oh my God, can this please be the end of the Odell Beckham watch? I mean, last year was the most ridiculous thing in the history of like professional football in terms of over coverage of a guy who ended up playing a snap for a single team and wasn't ever going to be healthy enough because he tore his ACL in the friggin' Super Bowl. So like that whole thing last year, especially with the Cowboys, I know Jerry Jones loves attention and all of that. Just too much. Just too much. And then this whole thing leading up to it, just too much. Like if he goes out and has a good if he has 1,000 yards, then great job. That's a big season for him, I think, given the health and like the way and how much he's played in the past few years. Now, having gotten that annoyance off my chest, I'm going to point out that, again, mutually exclusive takes. I think the Odell Beckham stuff is annoying as hell. And yet, if Odell Beckham is able to get Lamar Jackson back and playing on the franchise tag, then this is a great signing. And here's a hot take. By using the non-exclusive tag instead of the exclusive franchise tag, they actually had more than enough money to give Odell Beckham $15 million to bump up what they owed. Like Odell Beckham, let's say a $10 million deal, right? You get the $5 million for the difference in those two tags, and you're still saving money on the Odell Beckham-Lamar Jackson combo by virtue of using the non-exclusive tag. So if you're able to overpay Odell, make him happy, get him to hype up Lamar, bring Lamar in, and get Lamar to play this year, it's a massive win for the Ravens, and it's a fantastic signing. And look, should Lamar be that excited about Odell Beckham coming in? No, probably not. Is it going to drastically change his wide receiver core? Maybe, because they're that bad before, but not because like Odell Beckham is the best receiver in football. But if he likes Odell enough where he's FaceTiming immediately after this signing and the Ravens are tweeting it out, then this is a big, big win for Baltimore to overpay Odell Beckham and get Lamar Jackson back if that's what we think is going to happen.
Well, our own John Breach, I'm sorry. Okay. I was going to say, John Breach wrote that Lamar Jackson recruited Odell Beckham Jr. to the Ravens with the understanding he'll likely be at quarterback in 2023 per report. That's what Breachy says on CBSSports.com.
Right. I think it's from Rap Sheet not that Breach. Yeah, just make
Hey, Brinson, semantics with all you writers and taking credit for who said what. Who cares? We're all human. We say the same stuff. We just regurgitate it.
Well, somebody reported it. And somebody aggregated it. And I love John Breach like a brother. Well, I mean, like a stepbrother. Right. Like a cousin.
This is
more like a distant
title
cousin.
Of his article.
Maybe like a nephew, right? He's like a guy you're close to, but not that. And then more of like
his nephew. I don't want calling when he's in town.
Well, the other thing about nephews are with like an uncle-nephew relationship, they have extreme impacts on them. But like a lot of times it can be like, all right, they don't really know you. They don't really know you. Then you dump like all your life details on them. And they're like, dude, Uncle Will is weird. Like I didn't know anything about him. And I learned like way too much about him, right? Like that's more of like an ironic like uncle. That's why you always hear like, oh, the crazy uncle. It's like, why is he crazy? He just dumped a lot of stuff that I never knew about him until that one Christmas party when everyone got together at so-and-so's house. Like, that's how it works. I digress because we're getting off track from the point of this decision for Odell. I mean, is it as simple as saying, okay, you're paying me this much money? Yep, I'm willing to go ahead and spend a year in Baltimore, because I also feel like this is his last chance, right? Like, this is that opportunity for him to go in. I think he'll be looked and viewed, if healthy, as the number one wide receiver, at least on the outside. We don't know how that will really work out because Mark Andrews will probably get the most targets. But at least from the wide receiver core, he'll probably be wide receiver one. He gets this shot with a quarterback that, to be quite honest, he hasn't finished the last 2 seasons. The passing numbers haven't looked quite as good as what they did in that MVP season. You do have a new offense, too, with Todd Monken there. He likes to sling it around, but will they be able to adapt and do that? Will Lamar be able to adapt and do that? I think this is an interesting, deal for Odell, only because there's no doubt if he would have went to the Jets, probably, splitting time was like the number one guy. Now with the Ravens, he's the number one wide receiver, and it's just, what are we expecting? Is it 65, 70 receptions? Can he get to 100? Would they target him that much or even throw that much to be the case? I mean, has Lamar Jackson even thrown over 4,000 yards? I think he's done it. I think he's thrown over 3,000 once in his career. So if you're Odell Beckham and you're going there on a 1-year deal, a lot of people might think, oh, it's like a 1-year prove-it deal. Well, at this point in time in your career, every year is going to be a one-year prove-it deal. If you can't get a 2-3-year deal from a team now, every single subsequent year after this is going to be a 1-year prove-it year, depending on how this year goes.
Do you guys think this means that Lamar Jackson will play under the franchise tag then?
I do. I think he's going to play 2 years on the tag and then walk into free agency.
I mean, I think he's going to play. I don't know if he'll end up being under the tag or if he'll agree to a long-term extension. I mean, look, the draft may come and go, and there might be another team that submits an offer sheet that the Baltimore Ravens have to agree to. We don't know yet. There's teams that said they aren't interested, but I just have a really hard time believing that you wouldn't take the time to put in an offer. You don't have to give him the fully guaranteed contract that he's rumored to be looking for. You can reach out to him, have a conversation, and make an offer. It's no different than if look, people list their house all the time. That doesn't stop a buyer or potential buyer from coming in and saying, hey, you want $600,000 for your house? I think it's worth $450,000. And I'm going to submit an offer. I know it's low, but look at the market right now. Go ahead and hold on to the house for another 10, 12 months. See where you're at that point in time, paying for utilities, paying your taxes, insurance, and paying for your mortgage. Like, see what that looks like. Or you can sell it now to me for $450,000 and I'll save the cost, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with making an offer. I don't know why a team right now, well, I should say right now, but after the draft, if they don't get what they're looking for, then take the time to see if you can't potentially get him for a more economical number.
Works for me.
All right, let's move on to someone who has dropped a lot of weight and is looking very svelte. Russell Okung dropped an insane amount of weight. Hopefully, Billy has a picture that he's going to pop up for us here. He was most recently listed as 310 pounds, but he doesn't look like that anymore. Who was someone else that made a transition? I mean, I know that, look at this.
Well, it's incredible.
I thought that when Brady was suggested this is a topic, and it's definitely worth a topic. I thought that when I clicked on the link that the picture of Russell Okung from the sideways shot was like an ad for, you get those terrible ads. It's like lose weight in 3 days. I was like, oh, that's cool. Or it's a rendering of Russell Okung. No, that's actually him. That's not the same person.
A different person. He looks incredible.
And it's not one of those gimmicks either, where sometimes they give you like diet pill and they're like, look how much weight they lost. They take the picture. What a lot of people don't. Yeah, it's I don't want to say it's a doctored pick, but what they do is they'll have them basically blow up before they ever do anything, and then they cut down to kind of what they normally look like. That's usually how that ends up working. It's not like the other way around. So this is awesome. I mean, it's great to see him looking the way he does. Spent some time with Russell. He's a really good dude. There's a lot of linemen too fall into this category. Joe Thomas is absolutely shredded right now. He falls in that category, but it just goes to show you this is probably how these guys are supposed to be walking around. And I've seen so many offensive linemen have to force feed and train a certain way and literally eat beyond comfort to be able to keep weight on or put weight on. And it might sound unhealthy to people, and it really is, but the truth of the matter is that's the way they're able to maintain their position and be able to play at a high level. So good for him for losing the weight, breaking some of those habits.
Did you mention Jordan Gross too?
Jordan, I mean, there's a ton. Like Gross is part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time. Like Joe Thomas, obviously notable.
Any other Carolina Panthers or former NC State football players you want to throw in the conversation there in that regard too?
Jordan Gross is like the first one, bro. Like you don't. I mean, like I remember like when.
Okay, he wasn't the first one. My goodness,
the first one, and like who like he like immediately maneuvered into working in the media for the team, and it was just like his first day on the job. It was like, whoa, that dude lost it. Because usually like you football players, you retire and you go and like, you go and you try and like work through the psychological issues of having to give up your dream and blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. And like, you don't come out and, showcase yourselves in the public light. And then Jordan Gross though was like out there day one and just lost all this weight. And so it was like just a very notable example of it happening. Okay.
Let me ask you guys this, because I do always
such a troll today. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, some people would say a D-bag, but
that checks.
What else in the comments? So like I've obviously we're in broadcasting, right? And I remember someone saying this to me. They're like, "Oh man, that offensive lineman looks great," and it's like, "Oh, like he should be on so and so on TV," and it's like, yeah, but now he doesn't really look the part, right? Like there's also that element of like,
yeah,
we've got the skinny guy at the table who used to play offensive line, but doesn't look like he used to play it. So he's talking about like hand placement and his kick steps or whatever else they want to talk about, like the blocking scheme. People are like, who the hell's that guy? Like, why is this wide receiver talking about run blocking schemes, right? Do you feel that way? Like when you're watching an analyst on TV, they kind of need to look the part. Like they got to look a little bit like an offensive lineman, like they have played before.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think that like your Fox, like you like the dynamic of like y'all's Fox show that you do, the Big Noon Saturday Kickoff of Fox. It's like you are probably, and I know I'm being trolly, but I'm saying this in all seriousness, like you're probably the greatest player in the history of Notre Dame football, which is insane to think about. And you can look at it, I don't know about that, well, but whatever. But the point being is like, it's like when I, like you and Leinart and Bush, like, it's like, it's the same thing. Like it just makes me think of like Notre Dame, USC, and like you get juiced up for it. And so I think that yes, I want my quarterbacks to look like they can quarterback and know what they're doing. I want my linemen to be fat, and I want like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Like he's out there. I know what he did. I know what he did. Like you can I get the full Fitzpatrick experience when he's on the Amazon Prime stuff. Richard Sherman looks like a cornerback. Joe Thomas. Eat some barbecue, buddy.
Yeah, that's it. Rich Sherman looks like he can still play.
Yeah.
And then you see Joe, they're all svelte and all ripped up and going, gosh, he looks like a tight end. Maybe why he looks so shredded, but good for him. I'd say it's a way healthier lifestyle. So I don't think we should penalize them for choosing the healthier lifestyle.
No, I'm not going to penalize anybody for choosing the healthier lifestyle. I had some natural greens and went for a run this morning.
Good for you.
Thanks.
Do you like natural greens?
No. Yes, I do.
Greens?
It's pretty good. Yeah, wasn't bad.
I don't like drinking greens. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't.
I'm a big smoothie fan. Love a smoothie.
You should try AG1 or Athletic Greens.
That's what I had. Not natural greens. Sorry, Athletic Greens. Yeah.
Which they rebranded. Now they're AG1. A lot of people like the flavor. They don't mind the taste with little water. So I usually take that. It's pretty good stuff.
You take it like you take your coffee in the morning.
I don't
Do you
know
give it
what
to the 5 and 6-year-olds on the soccer team to make sure they're ready?
What does that even mean, Will? Where are we going with this one?
I don't know, Brady. No, you just do like a scoop and like a thing of water and just drink.
The best thing though about like people are like, not to go off on another tangent with this, but Katie, you should try. You might like the flavor, but it's like people will get up in the morning. They're like, "Well, I had my AG1. I'm going to go outside and smoke a couple cigarettes, and maybe I'll have a few glasses of Chardonnay at lunch, and kick back with an." I don't know, maybe a whole bottle of scotch to just, put the night away and smoke a few more darts. Like, it's like, I made one healthy decision. So now that just allows me the opportunity to do whatever I want the rest of the day.
Right. It's like exercising for the sole purpose of like losing just enough weight where you can drink as much as you want. Like, it's like, you're not really trying to get healthy. I'm just trying to make sure I can not get fat from drinking.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, I've heard of people doing that.
Right.
Yes.
Never you.
Anyway.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're watching the Pick Six podcast. We'll be right back.
Absolutely majestic.
Artilharia do Campeonato Brasileiro. Golpiche agora! Golazo!
Welcome back to the Pick Six Podcast. Katie Maxwell, Brinson, Brady Quinn. If you are not following us on socials, what are you doing? At Pick Six Pod across all social media platforms. So Deshaun Watson had his deposition quashed yesterday. A judge ruled that he no longer needs to be deposed. According to Cleveland 19 News, the victim's legal counsel has failed to reasonably accommodate Watson's multiple rescheduling attempts, which obviously they were just rescheduling because they didn't want him to be deposed. Brady, do you think that this off-field stuff is ever going to stop for Watson?
I mean, I don't know. Has he changed his habits? I mean, because I think there's a couple of interesting thoughts here, right? Like, has he really gone away from what got him in trouble before, or did he maybe venture back down that road a time or two where there might be some people out there? I know there was this lawsuit. I think there was rumor of a couple other pending lawsuits and more women who are potentially looking to file a lawsuit. It's hard to know. I think it reminds you, as we talked earlier about the Lamar Jackson situation, a quarterback who, look, if the Baltimore Ravens had signed Lamar Jackson to a $230 million fully guaranteed 5-year deal, we would have been like, wow, that's unbelievable. But he's a former MVP. He's had a lot of success. Makes sense. But that's, kind of a risk, right, for the way he plays and injuries and all that. But then when you compare it to Deshaun Watson, and not only what he hasn't accomplished yet, but then also the fact that what he had going on off the field, he wasn't even playing, and he was still able to sign that deal, and he's still dealing with it. I mean, it really is incredible and shocking how the Browns were able to sign a quarterback to this deal that, I don't know, after how he looked last year, if there's not big improvements this year, I mean, I don't know how you justify the distraction, how you justify the signing, the compensation, any of it, if things don't turn up there in Cleveland after this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we talk a lot about how, the Deshaun Watson deal has impacted the Lamar Jackson deal and future, or possibly the Lamar Jackson deal and possibly other future quarterback deals. And, ultimately, I don't think it's going to impact it just because of how I think all those contracts will play out. But the reality is, if it, all right, let's say hypothetically, like, we get through this year and Lamar Jackson doesn't sign his contract and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert sign, normal quarterback deals. And the Browns win 6 games and go 6-11 and Deshaun Watson plays like crap or he still has stuff going on off the field. Well, it's going to be really, 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 really hard for anyone at that point to justify a fully guaranteed contract. And I know that that's not fair because none of these other guys have those issues that Deshaun Watson does, but these owners are going to look at it and point at it and say, look, they traded all these picks for this guy, gave him a fully guaranteed contract, and he's not any good, and he can't stay on the field. Now, they might win 13 games, and he might play great. I mean, there's no telling how this Brown season is going to go. I think there's any number, there's a lot of different pathways that it could go down. But he was incrementally better last year, I thought, from week to week, but he wasn't good.
No.
And if he plays like he played at the end of last year, and look, you could play, Brady, I mean, this. Like, Cleveland's a weird place to play football, man. Not just from like weather-wise. You could get 2 or 3 home games late in the year where you can't throw the football, and you're I'm just saying there is definitely a lot of paths where this is just a complete disaster, and it really only reinforces the owners, the desire not to give up fully guaranteed contracts.
No doubt. I mean, you would think a lot of owners are probably tabling those contract negotiations, right? Or at least trying to massage those conversations so they work away from trying to get to, not being close to that total guaranteed money. Eventually, someone's going to surpass it, but I also think it calls into question the financial ability, right? The solvency of any owner to be able to pay out that sort of money, right? I mean, you've got to put that in escrow. And that's what I think ultimately the owners are trying to avoid in all of this is they don't want to have to tie up all that cash in an escrow account to make sure they've got it. And maybe that's a rule that they look at changing the CBA as these values get higher and higher. Or maybe that's where certain teams look to sell and they look to kind of cash out. I mean, I don't know what the Cincinnati Bengals bought the Brown family bought the Bengals for, but they're worth about $3 billion according to Forbes last year. And I would imagine they're going to make a ridiculous return compared to what it was, but like that's their business. That's what that family does. So, they've got to sign Joe Burrow to a contract where they might not be able to have the cash they need to equate to what he's looking for. Even though I think we'd all agree, Joe Burrow is a top 3 quarterback in the league, right? It's Mahomes.
Number one overall.
I mean, Burrow's got him number 1. I put Mahomes up there with Burrow. I mean, you look at Allen, you look at Herbert. I mean, all those guys. You say, all right, those are like that next wave of guys you feel really confident about being able to win you a Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But it's just a reminder again of this is something that will continually keep popping up based on how he conducts himself off the field. Yeah. And if it does, the sad thing is like there wasn't really any like remediation. Like I know there was certain markers he had to hit in order to come back from his suspension, but we don't really know what that was. I mean, seriously, like, what was it exactly? Yeah. I mean, is he like driving by in West Palm Beach, like organs of Asia, and like, is he like, they're testing him to see if he'll, follow suit for one of the potential owners of one of the NFL teams.
Oh, so anyway, moving along.
Well, we talk about, he has to have a good year this year. Do you think that he'll be able to focus on football? I kind of think no. And I keep equating it back to what happened with Tiger Woods. When the entire world knows that you're a creep and they know your deepest, darkest secrets and that you've done really unsavory things. And I've seen what the fans are shouting at him also when he's playing. I don't know that you can bounce out of that and really focus on the game when everybody knows what you are on the inside and it's not pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I do think that he has served a suspension, went through it last year, played in Houston. Like if you're you're a professional athlete, at some point, we see Tiger bounce back and won the Masters, right? I'm not saying Deshaun's going to bounce back.
How many years later? Yeah.
Well, he also had a bunch of surgeries too. I mean, like it's.
I just think, but right after, yeah.
I think Deshaun is probably, frankly, based on his behavior patterns, probably pretty capable of tuning out some noise and maybe being a little what's the word that you would use without calling him a sociopath? Narcissistic?
There it is. Well, yeah.
Self-indulgent?
Narcissistic.
Oh, what? You reference Asia? No, you're judging me for saying sociopath?
I mean, I'm not judging. I'm trying to think of the word you're looking for. I was just trying to come up with unique scenarios where I thought maybe like one of these, they were just testing them. Like let's just drive by this place and see if it's a potential issue for them.
To get into the car with Roger Goodell, they just drove around and found every possible massage parlor.
Don't do it.
Hey, Deshaun, look right there. What do you think? Huh? All right, let's go on to something else.
All right, moving on to another
slightly
sleazy situation. The Commanders reached a $625,000 settlement for their nearly $5 million of fans' money that they stole. Does this mean that the team will be sold now? It seems like they're just kind of cleaning up their side of the street, getting ready for sale. What do you think, Brady?
Yeah, I mean, that's where this is headed, right? I mean, I wish it could fast forward, move along. This is an organization that's got a fan base that is like dying for them to go back to the glory days. And I think they're going to be capable of, depending on who the new owners are, because they've already tried to, at least organizationally, bring in some really good people there to turn some things around. You got to love Ron Rivera. He's a great man. He's a good leader. He does things the right way. Jason Wright, who's within that front office too, is a part of that. He's one of those people that does everything the right way. It's now about just figuring out how to move on from the very top. And I know Dan Snyder has, technically not been as involved because of a lot of the issues that Washington was under. But the reality is he was still owner. And so until he moves on, they really can't get out from under this dark cloud. And I think this settlement is kind of cleaning some things up on the books to make sure everything's clean moving into the next ownership group. Because that's the last thing they want. I don't know if it's the Josh Harris group or Jeff Bezos or the guy from Canada with a really long name, whoever it is, they don't want to be taking on these sorts of issues. They want the stuff to be done, figured out, and they got a clean slate moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, this is I think it's Billy asked in the chat, is it time for Ron Rivera to be fired? I mean, Ron Rivera already saw through one disgraced like owner forced to sell situation. If anything, I think Ron Rivera is the kind of the perfect coach to like get through whatever you're dealing with Dan Snyder, because he's not too high, not too low, leader of men, et cetera, blah blah blah. Like I think Ron Rivera rolls through this and is just like the guy, and then depending on how he performs the first year after the sale is done, maybe they change their mind, or maybe Sam Howell's great this year and Ron Rivera just like secures his job for another 5 years. It's it's hard to say how it's exactly gonna play out, but yeah, I mean, like I'm excited. Let me ask you this: if you bought the Commanders, would you change the name? Because I sure would.
No, what would you change it back to?
The Brinsons.
Oh, that would be good for the Brinson.
I'd name them. I would name them the Washington Priscos, and I would have our logo be a toilet.
I might change it back to the Washington football team. Actually, that was a good name.
I love Washington.
Like, why do they need to change this? Like, this is perfectly fine. And better yet, like as they started going through and search through the various names, they like didn't realize, some of these are already trademarked or copyrighted. Will you know better than I? But it was interesting to read that and watch that.
I've actually done a ton of what ultimately ended up being completely fruitless work and manpower and effort to dig through the National Copyright Archives to try and figure out what the next name is going to be. And it's kind of fascinating to like see stuff like, you would not believe how many people tried to get ahead of it when they were changing it from the R skins to the WFT, and then like what the new name was going to be. There were like 50 or like 100 different people who had like trademark names, like the Washington Admirals. And it's like, dude, like, you think I'm wasting my time? At least I can like qualify this as work because I'm trying to find something out. You were like burning through your like cash as like a side job to try and like haha, I got Dan Snyder, now the Admirals is mine. It's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, he'll just pivot. He'll find out, they're the Commanders. Some people have Freudian slips, call them the Commandos, whatever it is. But I
don't Freudian slip it. I purposely missay it.
Oh, okay.
The Commodores.
The Commodores. There you go.
I like the Washington football team. I don't think you can change the name again. They can't have 3 names in a span of like 3 or 4 years. But so, Brady, what do you think the value is now of the Commanders? I mean, in 2022, it was $5.6 billion, making them the 6th most valuable franchise in the NFL. Is their value going up now that they're kind of cleaning up their side of the street, getting rid of this stuff, or what?
Yeah, you have to think so, right? I mean, that settlement's not being paid by the next ownership group. They haven't put down any money, at least to this point. And you got 3 bidders. Again, you got the guy with the long name in Canada. You've got the Josh Harris group, and you've got potentially it's like it's some Greek long name like Anapolopoulos.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which there's a lot of vowels. I know that, but it's
Steve Apostolopoulos.
Yeah, there you go. If Bezos gets involved, that's where the value, I think, really skyrockets. Not only do you have 3 potential bidders, but he's got the deepest pockets of anyone. Clearly he's the type of guy that likes to, buy things, build things, show them off. All right. I'm not sure if you've seen his rocket, but he's the type that is not embarrassed whatsoever about showing you his rocket. So I'm sure he'd love to buy the Washington Commanders, and he'd love to show that team off too.
Are you talking about? Who you talking about?
Bezos.
Deshaun. Jeff Bezos. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Talking about Rockets.
I heard you say
what?
Somebody else.
I mean, okay. Here, Billy, bring up a picture of Jeff Bezos and their little shuttle, their rocket, and you can discern what you want.
Are you asking Billy to show everybody Bezos's rocket?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the whole point. We were talking about it.
I'm just wondering if you're trying to make sure that everyone sees his rocket.
I think Jeff Bezos wants everyone to see it.
Yeah, of course he does. He's the type of guy who wants to let everyone know that he's got this big giant rocket.
Yeah, and the reality is he wants to probably buy a football team and take his friends, and especially if you're in the DC area where a lot of law is made, you can figure out ways, if you own Amazon, of lobbying and bringing some folks over to some football games. I mean, it all works hand in hand. I just don't know if Dan Snyder wants to sell to Jeff Bezos.
I don't think
Yeah, and we probably won't, knowing Dan Snyder. So you still have a market. You got 2 other potential bidders. It's going to go for at least 6. We know that. Maybe when it's all said and done, a little bit more. And I think there's a ton of potential there, given the DC area, the media market, and all that. So
that is certainly a rocket.
Yep.
The Blue
really
Origin.
Yep.
Is that what it looks like?
Decided to shape his rocket.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Like you could pretty much make a rocket in different, shape sizes.
I mean, we've got years and years and decades of rockets being shaped one way, and Jeff Bezos decides to shape his rocket a different way.
Well, first off, let me just say this. You had a shuttle that was on top of a bunch of like literally rockets, right? And like that was the whole NASA shuttle. All of a sudden that got discontinued. But like that was like a normal aircraft on rockets that would be thrusted up in the air. Basically, after SpaceX comes out with their model, Bezos is like, wait a second. You can't allow Elon Musk to come up with his rocket, and I can't show you what I can make in my rocket. So there you go. Now you got Blue Origin. There's Bezos' rocket.
It's quite a rocket he's got there. One could almost suggest that by building a giant rocket like that you probably also have a large car. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They say about people who buy cars that are too big.
Yes.
They have rockets. They have giant rockets as well.
They have giant rockets. All right, fellas, on that note, on the Blue Origin rocket note, we will take a quick break. You're watching the Pick Six podcast. More rockets when we come back.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in tour championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
Welcome back to the Pick Six podcast. I'm Katie Mox here with Will Brinson and Brady Quinn. Today's the Brady Quinn Football Show. Make sure you join us all week to keep up to date with all of the NFL offseason news and some rocket updates, possibly. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page. All right. Cleansing the air from our last conversation with some unsavory people. Let's talk about the Cardinals. They have the number 3 overall pick, and there is a sweepstakes going on right now. They have apparently received inquiries from at least 6 teams. You got the Raiders, Titans, Colts have all been in the mix. Obviously, everyone trying to get the best defensive players available. Brady, who do you think is going to make a play for this number 3?
Okay, before I answer that, I'm going to pose a question to you two. All right, and Katie, you start. Are there really 6 teams interested? Like I was trying to kind of do the math on this because you're assuming that you're talking to 6 teams who might be trading up for a quarterback. But I don't know. I mean, couldn't this just be the Arizona Cardinals making this claim and leaking this out to be like, oh my gosh, look at all these teams involved to try to draw up the trade price?
Yes.
Yes.
You could in theory say that Indianapolis, Seattle, Vegas, Atlanta, Tennessee.
Oh, that's 5.
And maybe the Lions would be 6. If you wanted to say, I mean, you could at least, if you're Arizona and you were desperate to try and make it seem like there's more than 2 teams calling you, which is probably the reality, because Indianapolis ain't, I don't think Indy's going to trade up one spot for whatever the prohibitive cost is. I think Seattle's going to sit and be fine. I think Detroit sits and fine. Vegas and Tennessee probably calling. That's probably it. But if you're trying to drive up the price, you could leak out that there's 6 teams that have called you about it, knowing that, 1, nobody's going to come out and deny it. And 2, you could actually find 6 teams who viably could trade up to that number 3 spot. I think it's a slam dunk, personally, that the Titans move up to 3. Monty Ossenfort, the Cardinals GM, just came from the Titans. He worked with Mike Vrabel. Obviously, John Robinson worked with him, but he no longer there.
Now.
What's that? Yeah. Carthon, he was in Tennessee before, though, right?
He was in San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Clarence says, "Don't forget about the F them picks Rams."
Yes, the Rams. They could. They might be too far.
Too far back, aren't they?
Yeah,
I don't know if they have the
capital.
Yeah.
They don't have a first round pick, do they?
Yeah.
No, they gave it to Detroit. Yeah.
They gave everything to Detroit.
Yeah. And point being is like clearly they don't like Malik Willis. They signed Josh Dobbs and started him in a playoff game over their rookie. I mean, with like five minutes of prep on it. And I don't know. I think you can just make an easy case that Tennessee and Arizona could swap, knowing that Arizona has to look at this year as kind of a lost year. Kyler's probably not going to play most of the season. You got a first-year head coach. You got this issue with the ownership. You got a first-year GM. Like their win total is 5.5. Like they're probably not going to be very good. So why not just recoup as much as you can, move down in the draft, and try and get as many assets as you can in the draft that's much deeper than it is top-heavy.
Katie, what say you?
I would say probably 3 teams in the mix. I definitely think that the Raiders are probably one of the top ones. I agree with Brinson about the Colts just moving one spot maybe doesn't make enough sense with what they have to trade for it. But I would like to see the Raiders move up for this one and help out my guy Jimmy, obviously.
Oh, here we go. There's always got to be. But I'm not even going to get into it. I was going to make a comment back then in regards to Jimmy, but I'm not going to now. The other part of the conversation is you got to piece together whatever that trade compensation is going to be. And I think that's if you use the Jimmy Johnson draft chart, right? For people out there who don't know, they associate a value with every single pick in the draft. So if you're moving from 11 to 3, okay, 3 would be worth 2,200 points. And the 11th overall pick is worth 1,250 points. And so, that difference of 950, right? You've got to figure out how you can make that work. With whatever other additional draft capital you have this year or potentially next year. That's a kind of big jump, right?
I think it's less now than it used to be. Like the Jimmy Johnson trade chart, like
okay, I know for starters, yeah, we can get into it because people, I know people. The charts, it's just a baseline. Everyone has their own chart. Everyone does their own value. What I was going to get at before you so rudely cut me off, Will, like you always do. San Francisco went from 12 to 3 to get Trey Lance. Katie, you know this. And they gave up ridiculous draft capital in order to get him. So we could talk about whatever the draft chart says, and we can go that route. The truth of the matter is, when a team knows you're trading up to take a quarterback, they're going to fleece you, okay? Like they're going to say, nope, not enough. We need a little bit more in there, just like the San Francisco 49ers gave up for Trey Lance. Katie Mox, what say you?
Katie would give up 3 first-rounders and Trey Lance to get Jimmy Garoppolo back on the.
Well, we already know how I feel about the Trey Lance thing. I didn't think that we should have done that and given up all of that stuff for him. So yes, I see what you're saying here, Brady, that they're going to get fleeced for this number 3, and maybe that then affects the Raiders now. I don't want them necessarily to trade all that stuff away. So sure.
Okay. Not feeling great about it. Either way, I think like who's straight up. Will likes Tennessee. I personally feel like if you're Indy, you've got to trade up because you can't allow the potential of someone else to do it. It's not going to cost you that much in draft capital to do so. And if you are between Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, or maybe Hendon Hooker, we don't know how they're evaluating the quarterbacks. But let's say you're between those 3. Wouldn't you want to make sure you get that guy? If you're Jim Irsay, wouldn't you want to make sure, since year in, year out, your veteran quarterback route hasn't really worked. And if you want to go back to the draft where they've been successful at drafting quarterbacks and those guys have been the right picks, wouldn't you want to get your guy? That would be my thought process with it. I think Indy makes the most sense just to make sure they get the quarterback if they, indeed feel like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson or Hendon Hooker is the guy.
Agreed. All right. Well, speaking of Arizona, Kliff Kingsbury is back from Bangkok, and he has accepted a job at USC as an advisor. Why go to USC, Brady?
Well, yeah, for the first thing is a lot of people are probably curious as to why he's decided to come back. We have to remember he was going to be the play caller, I believe, back when Clay Helton was still the head coach. And so that was already on the table before the Arizona Cardinals offered him the head coach.
He got fired by Texas Tech, was hired to be the OC at USC, and then got the head coaching job
at
the Cardinals.
Was given it. I don't even know that he spent much time there before he ended up taking it. But I think he's got a relationship with Lincoln Riley. It makes a lot of sense from that standpoint. In a senior offensive analyst role, he can be involved to a degree, but not too involved. And that way it also allows him to keep whatever monies that he's owed as far as the offsets go, because he's not actually coaching, which I'm sure was outlined in the contract. So I believe it was initially reported like he was going to be quarterback's coach. And then that got walked back because they realized, like, oh, wait a second, he's not going to be able to earn all the money he's making. Meanwhile, he can be an analyst. USC doesn't have to pay him much, if anything, probably based on those offsets within his former contract with the Cardinals. And he could still be involved around the game, be around one of the better offensive minds. And I'll be quite honest. If you are a team and you are interested in bringing on a young offensive-minded head coach, I'm just saying, would you think that Lincoln Riley would be one of those guys you'd look at? I mean, let's say, for example, you want to move on from, whatever head coach is there. You're probably not having a good year. You're probably one of the drafting at the top of the draft. Hey, Will, who's draft eligible next year that might be the best quarterback in college football?
If you're not talking about Drake May, I assume you're talking about Caleb Williams.
So maybe you would think that you could go for both Lincoln Riley as your head coach and Caleb Williams with whatever team it ends up being that ends up having the worst year and ends up being in a position to take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. So you kind of run back the idea that Arizona had, which looked good for the first 3 years until really year 4. And by the way, Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray, 2 completely different prospects. So I'm only going to get into that. But you could present that scenario. And so if you're Kliff Kingsbury, you're looking at like, yeah, this ain't so bad. Like, I'm a good-looking dude in Southern California with a ton of money. I'm going to go ahead and hang out for a year, and we'll see how this whole thing plays out. And if Lincoln leaves to take a head coaching job, guess who's going to be a guy who wants to interview for the head coaching job at USC? And guess who I could probably woo over with my Ryan Gosling good looks to hire him in Southern Cal?
He look like Kliff Kingsbury.
I would equate him to Ryan Gosling.
He's hotter than Ryan Gosling.
He's way more jacked and way better looking.
Way hotter than Ryan Gosling.
Female
way better breeding material. He's way better breeding material than Ryan Gosling.
Correct. Gosling's a jag. Kliff Kingsbury got drafted as a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure your kids will be arrogant punks who love wearing socks and sitting in front of fires and big screen TVs, but they'll be rich and handsome and play football. What more can you ask?
I still vote Ryan Gosling. I still vote Ryan Gosling. Y'all can breed with Ryan or with Kliff Kingsbury, and I will choose Ryan Gosling.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Do we think that Kingsbury is done with the NFL, or Brady, like you said, you think he's just kind of hanging out for a few years, letting the dust settle a little bit, still getting paid, and then maybe he will reemerge?
He could probably reemerge, I think, as a position coach, maybe play caller. It depends on what he wants. I think ultimately, after being a head coach in the NFL, it's probably hard to go. It wouldn't be hard to go back. I mean, they did have a certain level of success, but the problem is he's got to kind of reinvent himself, because I think people look at the fact that he didn't win at Texas Tech, despite of not acknowledging the fact that he recruited a lot of really good quarterbacks, right? I mean, during his time at A&M, he recruited Kyler Murray. During his time at Texas Tech, he did get Baker Mayfield to come there before he transferred to Oklahoma. Patrick Mahomes was there. Davis Webb, who got drafted. I mean, you can go through the list. So he's got a great eye for talent, and I think developing quarterbacks. He is a good offensive mind. It just comes down to what ultimately he wants to do. Some coaches, they become a head coach. They like having the control. Some don't. Some would rather just call plays and not have to worry about all the other BS that comes along with being a head coach.
I also think you got to look at the fact that, we talk about the offset language and everything and how he's going to milk the Cardinals for as much money as as he should, right? Like you got this huge contract with the Cardinals. They fired you 1 year in. Like, you're not going to rush back to being a head coach unless, as Brady points out, Lincoln Riley gets a job to follow Caleb Williams to the NFL, or some NFL team is drafting Caleb Williams first overall, and it's like, man, we need a head coach, and Kliff Kingsbury just did great things with him. I think that's probably unlikely. I do agree. It'll, like, you look at the guys who are really the retread head coaches, and it's not a Kliff Kingsbury type. Like, it's more like a Lovie Smith, a Rex Ryan, a John Fox. It's like sort of an elder statesman.
Defensive-minded head coaches. I mean, look, Josh McDaniels gets a second shot.
Yeah, but not like immediately. I'm talking about the guys who get fired and immediately get another job.
Well, I mean, think about it. John Fox went to a Super Bowl. Who was the first one you mentioned?
Lovie Smith went to a Super Bowl.
Lovie Smith went to a Super Bowl. I mean,
2 championships. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's also your resume. It has to be something that you can sell. That's part of it.
You can't sell a 250 winning percentage and a 25% winning percentage in the second half of the season. This is your top resume.
Yeah, I mean, look, and again, there's different elements of it. Like I was going to say, if I'm him personally, like I would want to take every dime that I could from them before taking another opportunity. If you could still stay involved with the game, in part because, you had everything on the right track, and then you get your best player getting a PED suspension. He's gone the first 6 games. You've got an injury to a number of key pieces. You can go on down the line of decisions that were made that he might not have agreed to in regards to the roster. Letting a guy like Chandler Jones go. I think there's a lot of things that might have played a role in their lack of success. And you can talk about the Kyler Murray, Kliff Kingsbury relationship, whatever the case may be. But offensively speaking, they'll put up some good numbers. They get some good things. And I think there are some limitations that Kyler Murray has based on his size with what you have to do with the offense. And I think he was trying to cater to those things.
Yeah. All right, before we get out of here, NBA play-in tournament starts tonight. We got the Heats and the Hawks, and then the Lakers and the Timberwolves. Brinson, I saw you making some bets on that already. What do you got?
Yeah, I was co-hosting with our buddy Nick Costos on You Better You Bet. Yeah, let's check it out. 3 actually go live. I'm going to take a nap for that show. You got to be high energy for Costos. I got the what do we have tonight? I got the over. Something
lay the points with the Lakers. Come on.
Rudy
Bears.
Go Bears. It's 8 points though. It's a lot of points. I like that though. I like the Lakers over their team total. It's at 119.5. They've gone over this a lot recently. And I actually like the Hawks. Not to win the game. I think to win the game. I'm taking the points with the Hawks.
Will you watch? A lot of people are like out on the NBA or they're not as enticed to watch some of these games. I actually think this is appointment television.
Absolutely.
LeBron at this point in time in his career, obviously coming back from an injury, this retooled Lakers team, they have a shot. Like they played such better basketball than they did in the first half of the season. And it is interesting too. Like that was a LeBron built team. And then like Pelinka comes over. He's like, no, we're going to make all these moves. LeBron gets injured. He's out for a while. And that's like, oh, wait a second. This team's really coming together. Like maybe some of these executives know what they're doing. Like maybe Pat Riley back when I was with the Miami Heat putting together some teams.
Rob Lowe doing a heck of a job out there in LA putting it together.
Rob Lowe. Talk about, by the way, would you rather look like Rob Lowe or Ryan Gosling?
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, right?
The facial symmetry with Rob Lowe is elite.
It's a sneaky great movie. I've tried to recommend this to like several people, and they're like,
Tommy Boy? Rob Lowe's in that movie.
Oh, wait. Oh, speaking of Ohio, how much would you have to get? I think you're the perfect guy for this because, you're former NFL quarterback. You've done well for yourself outside of football, did well for yourself, and like before, like.
Get to the point, Brinson. What's the question?
You're from Ohio. Soccer coach.
How much would it cost you? How much money would you have to be given to scream? This is a Costas idea too. We were talking about this yesterday, and I was howling at it. Jack Nicklaus gets on the tee box at Augusta for the Thursday morning ceremonial tee shot. Yeah, he's gonna hit the ball like 125 yards. It ain't, it's not going. It's a downhill back up to that par 4, and you have to scream, "Get in the hole!" Like how much money would you? Because for me, it would be like probably close to $10 million. Because 1, you're banned from Augusta for life, no doubt about it. 2, like Scott Van Pelt, you're gonna like lead SportsCenter as that jagoff who like went up there and screamed that. You're gonna be banned from other clubs. You may be waterboarded at Augusta for all we know. Like anything is on the table. What they do behind the scenes, it's gonna be a lot of money. And like you would be the shame of Ohio if you did that.
Well, yeah. Look, he's obviously Dublin, Ohio, or the Memorial Tournament is, which is Jack's tournament, and also the club I belong to up there. I probably would not be asked to come back.
You would be banned from your own club.
I'm sure I get a call from their head pro, Larry Dornish. She'd be like, hey, Brady, sorry, but we saw what happened there in Augusta. You're out. There's also like Jimmy Dunn, a friend of mine. He probably would never, ever have me back to Augusta or Seminole or anywhere else for that matter. So there is no amount of money that you can pay me
That's what I
to disrespect the Golden Bear or even some of the other people involved, whether that's Jimmy Dunn or anyone else. So I will gladly, I might actually, if I was next to someone who's
punch me if I yelled that,
I would tackle you. I would literally like tackle you, like choke you out, really make it choke you out, put you to sleep just so Jack could hit off his ceremonial tee shot.
And then you would get to play Augusta with Jack and your boy Jimmy Dunn, probably.
Yeah. Well,
have you played Augusta?
What's that?
Have you played Augusta?
I've not played it yet, but yeah, I'm hoping to one day.
Will you take me when we play together? We never play golf together.
There is like a 0.0001% chance you could get that invite.
Okay. Well, I was.
You know why though? I mean, first off, there's a chance, which is great for you. But you know what I was thinking is you would be and Katie too. Do you play golf, Katie?
I do, but not regularly. I do when I'm home here at my parents' house. I play more golf.
Okay. Then this is how I turn this around. Like, what's your favorite hobby? What do you like to do?
My favorite hobby, what I like to do, well, outside of just like watching football and obsessing about the 49ers.
This ain't no hobby.
Actually, I'm thinking back. That would be like, if you're not passionate about, you can't take someone on a trip like that that's not passionate about it. That would be like me being like, Katie, I have the best tickets. All right. We're going to have to go to I guess I'm trying to think would be your biggest rival. I have to be a division rival. I guess I'll say the Seahawks. Is that fair? Is that who you probably hate the most in the division? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Seahawks and Rams, yes.
Yeah. We're going to go see a Seahawks versus the Rams game. And we're sitting like right there on the field. You'd be like, yeah, I don't want no part of that. Right. You got to take someone to be pumped about going to Augusta. So unfortunately, I don't know that you'd be that stoked. I think Will would be super stoked about it. Probably too stoked though, which is why you'd get the axe.
I'd be cool. Yes. I'd be cool.
You'd be cool.
I've been there. I've been there.
You're cool.
I know how to act like. Look, when it comes to golf, I know how to act like I've been there. Right. I'm actually supposed to be playing. I'm playing. I was like thinking about this. Like I'm playing Congressional and then Burning Tree in a couple.
Oh,
of weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, very excited about that. And I'm pretty sure that if I had screamed, "Get in the hole!" or like mashed potatoes as Jack is teeing off, that I'm not playing those rounds of golf with my father and his good friend Tom, who's getting.
What is it with the screaming of "get in the hole"? Because I feel like anytime Tiger Woods does anything, everyone is screaming, "Get in the hole!"
I think everyone should be banned from doing it. I hate it. I just think the idea of like the varying range of like amounts of money that people would be willing to do this while Jack is teeing off with no chance of getting in the hole, by the way. Like he can't get the ball. No one can get the ball to that green, much less like 80-year-old Jack Nicklaus. One of the producers on the show yesterday was like, "What? I'd do it for $100. What are they going to do to me?" It's like, dude, you might not make it out alive. It's like, you're not like Augusta don't play around.
Yeah, they're going to beat you with some 9-irons. When I was in either high school or college, one of my buddies was a big Ernie Els fan, and he really was like more of a friend of my friends, so he wasn't like that close. And so we were following around Ernie Els, right? Beautiful swing. They call him the Big Easy because he just makes it look so easy the way he swings and crushes the ball. But he kept he was hammered drunk, and he kept being like, come on now, Big Easy, let's go, Big Easy. And after like 2 or 3 holes, which he went like bogey, par, and missed like a really easy birdie putt. You see Ernie Els look back to his caddy, and he says something to his caddy. Caddy says something to one of the officials. They look over to like our group of guys, and they're like, and they obviously knew who was like kind of rooting him on and cheering for him. I just slowly started to back up. Like I've never met that person in my entire life, and that was it. Like he got escorted out. He was done. And I was thinking, if that's how they handled like a guy being actually like rooting for him.
Augusta?
No, this was at Muirfield.
Except in Muirfield, they're like tossing this guy for like being like, "Yeah, Big Easy."
He wasn't being like that loud about it. It just happened to be like kind of saying it a lot, like he was like his best friend.
He was annoying Ernie.
He was like his drunk best friend following him around on a golf course. He's like, "All right, you've had too many drinks. Like, go home. We'll see you after the round." But he didn't know him. He was just a big fan, and that apparently ticked off Ernie Els.
You get tossed.
The waste management is the only one where you can yell and be full debauchery.
I mean, it depends. Like on like Wyndham Championship in Greensboro is pretty chill. Like it's nobody's like riding the pony like Adam Happy Gilmore style or anything like that. But I mean, waste management is the only one you can like rip shirt and throw a beer at, and it's just that specific hole too. Golf is a gentleman's game.
Which means
surprising why Brady plays.
It seems dangerous when they're throwing their bottles.
Is that the only one you have doubt? Is that the only one you have doubt?
Tyron Matthew.
I'm just stopping by to say, fire Ryan Wilson.
Ryan Wilson got this like 2 years ago. Like these tweens on TikTok started dragging his mock drafts every week. It's like,
Oh, he missed it! What is happening here? Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man.
All right. I think we're good here. I think we're good.
On that note, thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you join us on Thursday at 1 p.m. for more NFL offseason coverage. Of course, remember to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube page. If you're listening to the audio version only, do the same. Download, follow, leave a 5-star review, and tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. I think we gave you a lot of reasons today to tune in on Thursday. See you later.